Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari, and it's the final day of 31 Days of Books today, which means statistics. This is my reading statistics for 2023, and I brought the spreadsheets back. Are we excited? I hope so. I went and found a layout so it's prettier than the last time, just for you. Just between me and you, this is for you, that I stole somebody else's work and made it prettier. But they're credited at the end, so it's not really stealing. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, let's get started. In 2023, I read 202 books, 77,195 pages, which averages out to about 211 pages per day, or 371 pages per book. My average rating was a 3.25, so a little bit lower than what I would like. I would like to have a 3.5 average rating for the year, which means I mostly read books that I liked. But 2023 for me and for a lot of other people was an extremely mediocre reading year. So hopefully it gets better in 2024, but for 2023, it's mediocre. Thanks to Goodreads, the shortest book I read was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher, and the longest book I read was Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. The most popular book I read, as in the most people had shelved it, was Divergent by Veronica Roth, which, you know, makes sense. The least popular book I read was the 12 Days of Book Clubmas, which makes sense. This is like an advent calendar short story. Next, I have the highest rated book that I read was The Will of the Many, which I didn't give a very high rating. I thought this was fine. I gave it like a 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but it is not this good. Of course, this is often compared to Red Rising, and I didn't like Red Rising either. Or I don't hate it, but I don't love it as much as everybody else does. So if you are one of those people who really, really likes Red Rising, you'll probably like this book too. Then my Goodreads goal for the year was 200 books. I read 202 books, so I made it. Look at that. Let's get into the pretty graphs here. First up, I have my genres graph. And as you can see, I read mostly fantasy. Shocking absolutely no one, because every year it's mostly fantasy. Almost 40% of my reads were fantasy, and that is a grand total of 81 fantasy books. I'm thinking of dividing fantasy into fantasy and romantasy next year. So if you have any comments on that, let me know. My second biggest pie slice up here is sci-fi, which is also standard. Usually sci-fi is my second biggest pie slice, and that is 37 sci-fi reads. Next up, down at the bottom over here, is horror, which this one's new. I read 29 horror books, and I would like horror to be in second place to fantasy next year. Maybe first place if I split up fantasy and romantasy. After that, my next big pie slice is nonfiction, which, yay, I'm glad. That's one of the big pie slices on there. I read 19 nonfiction books. Then general fiction at 18, graphic novels at 7, romance at 4, 3 thrillers, 3 short story collections, and 1 mystery, and 1 poetry. Next up, demographic. I read mostly adult novels, as I should have read mostly adult novels, because I am a nearly 40-year-old woman. 84% or 171 adult novels, 31 YA novels, and a whole singular solitary middle grade novel. Next up is source. Where did I source the books that I read? As you see from this gigantic pie slice, that is my physically owned TBR, which the goal was to read that down, so I'm glad it's a giant pie slice. Up here I have the books that I purchased new, specifically to read them. These are BookBox books, and then my library. I also read a bunch from Kindle Unlimited, and the tiny little unlabeled pie slice at the top that's kind of blended together here is other, and those are just books that I borrowed from other people, whether it was like my sister or my boyfriend or whatever. They're just other. Format. I read mostly physical books, as you can see. The second biggest pie slice is ebooks. So if I can't get a book physically for some reason, or like my ARCs are usually all ebooks, big pie slice. Audiobooks, I have a very, very large backlog of audiobooks thanks to Libro FM, and I read at least one a month. Then the tiny little slice at the top is multi, and that is where I'm reading multiple formats. Maybe I'm listening to the audiobook and reading it physically, or I started an audiobook, couldn't stand it, so I got an ebook copy of it. Something along those lines where I'm reading it in more than one format for some reason. Read status. So most of these books are brand new. I've only read them once. Tiny little slice at the top is a reread. Next one is my author status. And this is the chart that I'm most proud of because look at how almost perfectly 50-50 that is. This is new versus repeat authors. Like a new to me author, this is the first book by them I've ever read, versus authors I've read from before and I wanted to read from again. So I really like that half of the things that I'm reading are introducing me to new authors. Then I have author gender, and this used to be 50-50 split, but it is not anymore. It is mostly women. I read mostly female authors these days. It is what it is. I like reading mostly female authors. It's time for women authors to shine when writing was mostly male dominated for centuries. So it's the ladies' time now. Mostly female, some men. And then I have this little slice up here that's multi, where it's like an anthology or something, and it's got multiple authors of multiple genders. And then one singular non-binary author. I need to work on that. And then finally, my star ratings. As you can see, and as you would expect, most of the books I read, I gave 3 stars. They were fine, not memorable. I didn't hate them. I didn't love them. They're just, it's a book. It's fine. 4 stars was the next highest category, so yay. Then 2 stars, 5 stars, and 1 star. I only gave 2 books 1 star this year, which is good. But then I only gave 12 books 5 stars, which isn't good. And I have a lot of 2 stars. That is 27 2 stars. I don't want to dislike 29 books a year. I would just like 10 of them, so I could do a worst of the year wrap. That is the end. Thank you for being here, and I will see you Tuesday for another video. I am done with the 31 days of books. I'm going back to my just a video on Tuesday schedule. This Tuesday is going to be like a really lame video probably because I just spent 31 days coming up with new video ideas. I don't have a lot in me right now, but that is it. Thank you for joining me for my 31 days of books this holiday season. If you have enjoyed these videos and you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you do. Tell me down in the comments below how many books you read this year. See you later. Bye.